Perfect. Welcome, Pranav, to our client interview session. Always love to
Thank you
talk
so
to our ecosystem. StationX. What can you tell us about StationX?
Thank you so much for having me. I this is well, like I it's like very rare like that I have done interviews like these, but it's actually really nice to get started, and the fact that we're doing it at zkMe itself is very exciting. So yeah, I'm Pranav. I'm a co-founder CMO at StationX. We've been building StationX for about a year and a half now, and I look after marketing and business development efforts at StationX. So we are essentially building, we call it an on-chain capital coordination protocol, but the simplest way that people understand what we do is we're building a Web3 version of AngelList. So we just really make it easy for our users to raise and manage capital on chain, right? And the the platform. So we're trying to bundle the whole software along with the services that are essential for you to be able to raise capital and manage it seamlessly in ways that you do not have to you do not have to pay too much. Like you do not have to put significant resources into back office administrative efforts or in terms of compliance, right? We really try to bundle it all into software and bundled services so that it becomes really easy and cost efficient for you to just raise and manage capital, and you do what you do best, which is if you're a project that's raising funds, like the fundraising bit is the stack handles everything so that you can just focus on closing your investors and wiring funds into your SPV, or what we call them stations, right? If you're a fund manager, you could just focus on raising and deploying capital, and which is investing, which is what you do best, and you let StationX as a technology stack handle everything for you. Or if you're setting up a venture fund, like again, if you're a fund manager setting up a venture fund, it's everything else is handled for you, right? So we really work on making it easy for you to raise and manage capital, and that's exactly what we put every day of our time into.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, full disclosure here. A lot of our customers are also your customers, and there's like a lot of like overlap in what we do. And I've talked to many of them, and I've asked them like, why StationX? Like, why not AngelList? Why not like some of the more local Web3 syndicates? Why not some of the up and coming? And the number one thing that all of them mentioned was like ease of use, and just like practicality and how to get something live. And the second thing that they mentioned was fees. But I always like to ask the question like, where do you see the differentiator? Like, why Station X now, and why Station X in the future?
That's a really good question. One is, I think, there are like some things that are straightforward are, yes, ease of use is something that we really focus on. So the way the protocol is designed is such that you basically get to spin out SPVs in less than 60 seconds. So we call these SPVs or investment vehicles on StationX as stations, right? So hence the protocol is called StationX, and you basically spin out a station every time you need to raise and manage capital. Um, so we're building it on top of Safe, right? So the whole thing about this is where a lot of on-chain components like really add up to help you like raise and manage things on chain, right? So the fees, so we have we like we focus a great deal on like saving costs for you, right? So the fact that everything is on chain, you have full custody of your assets. We are much cheaper than platforms that that are either centralized or that either like have just have like just create structures where you end up paying too much in fees, right? So if you're a person who's if you're a let's say if you're a if you're operating a syndicate, right, or a syndicate owner, you end up paying 2% to 5% on every time you raise, and it's a margin that gets eaten up from your from what you make, right, out of the amount of time and resources you put into sourcing opportunities, coordinating the entire deal and executing it, right? So this is the significant effort that managers put in. And it is what they do best, right? But when you end up paying 2% to 5%, which is most of these platforms that they pay, so either you're paying in upfront costs, which is upwards of $2,000 on Web2 incumbents, right? Like AngelList, Carta, and so on and so forth. But that's because a lot of components that those platforms have are like back office, like includes opening up a bank account and doing all of these things that they internalize and then they offer the software to you, right? So the way they see a lot of these costs, and they bundle them, and then that's why creating an SPV on AngelList is quite expensive, right? But for what that stack does, I think they've built it beautifully, right? And how they've bundled everything, and that's the biggest strength that AngelList has. The fact that we are able to be cheaper is because a lot of things are on chain. So there's a multi-sig wallet that acts as your treasury. You fully own and have custody of your assets. All the contracts are on chain, and the chains and stable coins just make it easy and make it very cheap for you to raise capital, and in fact, like capital from people around the world, right? So that's sort of how we look at it. So in terms of in terms of just globally coordinating capital, we see a lot of potential in how on-chain SPVs make sense in the long run, especially because stablecoins have found their product market fit to a great extent, and there's just increasing level of increasing components of regulatory clarity and how you could with services like KYC, with services like being able to spin out an SPV, and the way we bundle all of these into our services, we make it very, very cheap, right? So like StationX, one big advantage is the cost. If you're a person raising capital, you're only paying 0.5 to 1% of the total capital that you raise, which is much cheaper than most alternatives out there, right? And ease of UX is also a very big component because we make the product more playful. Again, that's something that's a more Web3 culture thing. We call SPVs as stations. You create a station, you just invite members into your station. That's how capital is raised. Members inside your station essentially become an on-chain cap table, and you have a treasury that you can and all the necessary functions are already built out, which could be in terms of transferring assets, in terms of distributing assets back to members, right, who participated in who basically had given you the initial capital, right?
Sure.
So all of these things are something that we've internalized, and because all of this is on chain, it's just very, very cheap and very, very easy for you to manage all of this. And the big factor that I'd like to highlight here is that this is exactly what we used to do, right? Before we picked up StationX and before we started working on this is exactly what we used to do. We used to pool money together. We used to, deploy it into opportunities that we used to find interesting, and we used to pool small amounts of money and make a slightly bigger check, and it used to be a 30-40 member group chats, and we used to invest in these opportunities, right? And so I mean, the playfulness, I think we really try to focus on that playfulness and ease of use, and really try to keep in mind the problems that we face at the time, and keep that in mind when we are building any feature that we build.
It makes so much sense for me. Like as someone that has invested via AngelList before, like some of the the tail end of features, or like the tail end of the process, can be quite painful within decentralized services. And I'm a very big fan of innovating through decentralization. A lot of what we do in this industry has become like either only narrative, and it's always a delight to talk to founders that share that insight, where we say like, in order for us to really innovate and really take established services that already exist, like for you it's AngelList, for us it's providers like SumSub or Onfido and Jumio, and just say like, yeah, even though they're established, even though they're like unicorns, through the use of decentralized technology, we can really disrupt them. And we're not disrupting through narrative alone or through like liquidity alone. We're disrupting really through better UX, better tech, more efficient tech. So I really share that vision for the future. One thing I'm really curious is what made you start StationX? Like, I think it's not something that is like a very clear and low-hanging fruit of a use case.
Yeah, I think it's been a journey, right? Like, I mean, see, I think the, the, the problem for us was always clear. I think but like I think we've had our own fair share of you know building. You see a road, there's a problem that you hit, and then you really have to navigate with every bump that you hit along the way. I think the problem was quite clear in the beginning. Um, and we really started off with building StationX for DAOs, and we were more on the DAO tooling side, right? Um, and it's essentially the infrastructure is still the same, right? So the treasury being multi-sig wallets, and members having if you let's say if I deposit capital into an SPV on StationX, I basically receive non-transferable shares, right? Which are basically usually ERC20s, or you could also choose to give out an NFT as an on-chain share, right? To somebody giving you capital, right? So on-chain shares, multi-sig treasuries, for us, it was mostly the DAO tooling stack that we started off with, but we just had to really trim down to we had to trim down the product to make it more use case specific, right? Make it more use case specific. Like, where are we finding customers? And we had to really laser focus on that, right? And while there could be various use cases for why DAOs or just people raised capital on chain, sometimes it could be various reasons, right? People have bought NBA teams, there were capital that was raised to various interesting use cases out there, but we really had to laser focus on what category, right? What category do we really want to solve for? And for us, investing in companies was where we had started off our journey, right? We used to invest in, it was through the whole 2017 ICO boom, where we just used to be on these Telegram chats, and we used to see we used to keep track of which protocols are at what stage, and what opportunities are floating around. And if we had these we used to have our own play money that we used to deploy it into crypto. We were doing a much more mainstream business at the time. We were actually building a services business that was something that we were mostly dedicated on. And we used to, because we were comp science engineers ourselves, we sort of always stayed active in the crypto space, right? And something that we found fascinating. And we were really trying to give a lot of time and attention to what was going on. So we used to deploy capital, some play money, $100, $500 here and there, and we used to deploy it into opportunities via network group chats that we were a part of. So investing in companies and the whole structure around how a protocol starts off, and how they, the whole, you go public first, and then there's a whole thing that the project has to then build out, right? So there's various stages in which we've seen projects, and we realize that Web3 is in fact, Naval actually talks about this, right? Naval talks about positive sum games, right? Where, this is a market where there could be there's infinite innovation that is possible. And there's projects there's projects that come out, and there's various stages at which they grow, and there's various stages where capital could be fueled into the right projects. And also just how access to capital becomes easier for founders, and access to opportunities becomes easier and surplus for people who want to allocate capital, which could be small angels, it could be larger allocators, like people who run syndicates, people who run venture funds as well. So something that we noticed, and while we were just one of those group chats in one corner of the internet where we used to invest by pooling small amount of money, I think that really stuck with us, right? So raising capital and investing companies has always been a sort of our North Star, but how has been how we have like been optimizing for it has been a journey of like a lot of figuring out, and I'm sure it's going to be a lot of figuring out moving forward also. So we know what we've signed up for. But yeah, it's actually quite exciting because it's sort of, we're following our North Star here.
Yeah, no, it makes so much sense. Like as an early stage first time founder, I agree. Like there's just like different stages for every startup, and not every startup is the same. Not every startup falls within the mainstream narratives. So for some projects, and there are a couple of projects that we supported together on a station, they have really innovative use cases and really innovative ideas, but maybe outside of the mainstream. And it might be a little bit difficult for them to get like the typical venture capital that you would get. And maybe if they go via VC, they would have crazy discounts on their valuations that are really not fair. Or maybe because they are very community driven, they would lose a lot of their narrative if they were to accept venture capital. So I appreciate what you're building, and I'm really curious because I think at the moment you're catering to a very specific kind of startup, but with growing momentum. Like, what is the vision? Where do you expect StationX to grow into?
I think we're doubling down on syndicates and venture funds and just like founder, like, so if, let's say, like, we really want to fit between these three categories. One is founders, syndicates, and venture funds, right? So if you're a fund manager that like that needs a stack to be able to manage your treasury, right, on chain, and manage your entire ops, you could do that on StationX. So we actually have a couple of micro funds that are setting up on the platform as we speak right now. And yeah, syndicates have again been a strong use case for us. We've been working with some partners who've been really, really helpful with feedback, really helpful with like, just a lot of user feedback that we've received, right? So especially like in terms of syndicates, the idea of an operator who has access to opportunities and especially the structure that, for example, Momentum 8 runs, right, where a manager who has access to opportunities and her network, she basically gives out access to her network, right? And as a member of Momentum 8 syndicate, it's not compulsory for you to participate in any deal, right? It's about you wanting to participate in any deal that you want. These are structures that could be really powerful. Um, these structures could be really powerful. So syndicates and funds are definitely something that we're doubling down on. And apart from that, we're also really doubling down on directly working with founders, right? So if you're a founder that's raising capital, set up your you could set up any round on StationX, right? You could set up your angel round, you could set up your entire round, bundle all your checks into that one SPV, and use that SPV to, give back tokens later and just manage investors, right? And the every step that comes in between of whoever you are who's raising money, you could be a syndicate operator, you could be a fund manager for a fund, or you could be a founder that's raising money. But for whoever you are, the whole process of raising money, starting from, like being able to set up your vehicle, um, KYCing your uh, depositors, or KYCing your LPs or depositors or members, whatever you call it, right? KYCing your investors, and then being able to manage documents, right? If for the back office bit, where if you have an off-chain SPV, how do you get those? How do you get your members to subscribe to your off-chain uh, company that you've set up, right? So these are things that we've bundled it together. So I think these are the three strong audiences that we're doubling down on: founders, syndicate operators, and funds.
It makes sense. And I like the idea of having more community-driven investments, or like community-driven um, like startup growth, because I think for many founders it's easier to convince people on an idea rather than on a business idea, right? Like I have this cool idea of what I want to build, but maybe, and I have like a trusted follower of really early adopters. And the thing that I'm lacking is maybe that one champion that helps me raise the funds to make this a reality. In a future in which true believers and people that really understand the tech have a voice and have like a following, have a syndicate, or maybe have like several syndicates, that becomes more purpose driven, right? Like I can follow this one person because maybe that person is like really strong on decentralized and censorship resistant startups, and find my deal flow in that way, and then find like the cherries that I want to invest in.
Yeah.
Going to the next question. So one thing I'm always curious about these solutions similar to StationX that act maybe somewhere between an infrastructure and like a solution provider. How do you approach compliance? Like, what is compliance to you, and how does it influence your product decision making, and how you approach the market in general?
It's a good question. So for us, compliance is a big component of what we do, right? See, again, the protocol is permissionless, right? So you could just use StationX as a pooling product, right? Where you just need to like pool some money and use it as a whatever. Like if you want to use it as a pooling to just pool money, use it as a shared wallet or whatever, right? Shared treasury. But but if let's say you do want to be compliant, right? If you want to have data around you need data on who's sending you money, right? If you accept capital, you need more information than just the wallet address, right? So you need to know, you need to be able to know which nationalities could you take capital from, which ones do you want to block. You want to know who is the person who's given you the money. You want to know, you want to verify everything, right? That's a big component for us. So that's where we've been working with you, right? So actively been using that where, so if let's say you are raising money, there's two sides of this. One is the KYC itself, so where you want ample data and control over who you take money from, and if you know like data on who you've taken money from, right? So you want control and um, access to data, right? On So that's one big component. The second big component is um, doing your documents work, right? So a lot of the times, if let's say I'm a syndicate manager, so there's certain amount of back office that I need to do, right? If let's say for every SPV that I need to spin up, I need to have an off-chain SPV, which could be a company in Delaware or an or an offshore jurisdiction that I need to spin out for that particular investment opportunity, right? So KYC and document, managing these documents, right? So for whichever entity that you use, you want to be able to get your investors to subscribe to that off-chain entity, and which is typically how we do it is that we basically capture a cryptographic signature of your investor, right? So the typical flow is that you go through if let's say I've created an investment vehicle and you want to participate in that opportunity with me, Alex. So I send the station's link to you, and let's say it's for whatever opportunity that is, and you want to co-invest along with me. Now you make a deposit into it. You go through one step of KYC on that SPV, right? Which is a beautiful zkMe powered pop-up that comes on the same page. So you do not have to leave that page and go to any other tab. Like we've really sort of built it out or a pop-up, and you go through the KYC. Take us about a minute. Then you make the deposit, and then the subscription agreement that I've created of the off-chain SPV for this investment is basically on the StationX app, which you just have to um, fill up some details, which is one quick form, and then you make a cryptographic signature with your wallet, right? And you, as Alex, with your data, which is your KYC data that I've just received as a manager, I've taken your capital, I've taken your information via the zkMe powered KYC service, And then I've also got you to sign the subscription agreement of my entity in Delaware or whatever I've created for this particular investment, right? So that's the flow for you as an investor, and for a manager like me, it's very easy for me to like get everyone to do this and manage all documents at one place and manage the entire cap table at one place.
I think the real like differentiator and the real game changer is that you as StationX, as the infrastructure provider, you don't really have access to any of the data, right? Like you are a pure permissionless tool in that sense that allows and that enables and integrates compliance primitives in order to leave it to the entities that actually have ultimate liability to become compliant, to choose to what certain level of compliance they want to fulfill.
Right.
And I feel this is like a mega trend at the moment. I see more and more, like we are talking to our major chain ecosystem, right? I just came from a call with one of the top mindshare chain ecosystems, and they all say like, I mean, we would love for all of our wallets to be anonymously KYC'd, because for us it gives us more options. It gives us the options to attract more institutional money. It allows us to mix, the tidy part of the permissionless capital with some more regulated RWA projects. And I think that's going to be the future. The future is going to be choice, where I have an infrastructure and I have primitives that allow me to do some more due diligence, obviously always with the intent of not giving up on the ethos of Web3 in a decentralized and private way. But I'm still able to fulfill all of the legal requirements that I have. I can offer an investment opportunity. I can make sure that none of my individuals, like all of my investors, are accredited. All of them have, are not sanctions, are not from restricted jurisdictions. Right. Without the smart contract that I use to have any access to that underlying data, it's all, as you mentioned previously, a cryptographic signature that just says like, I have a mathematical proof that a certain verification took place. Now, just last sentence, like I think this is one shift in the industry that many people have not understood the full implications. Because with that shift in mindset and with the shift of being open to more regulated use cases on chain, the whole industry is going to be so much more attractive for traditional finance liquidity to come into the ecosystem.
I 100% agree. So one is privacy, right? That's a huge part. That's a huge one for us also, right? We don't want to have access to data or assets of our customers, right? And we also are really committed to giving full freedom of how you want to manage your compliance, right? As a permissionless protocol. So you could be using a legal structure that you already use, right? And just import your documents and you just use StationX for all the steps that I mentioned. Or you could also spin out. So, we are also adding a legal wrapper to the product where if you do not want to, if you do not have an existing legal structure, you could spin out SPVs. You could spin out managed SPVs under StationX, right? And we let you do that. We let you create SPVs on the fly for every deal that you create on chain, right? So, like you said, so one is in terms of like privacy. You have full privacy. You really own your data, right? You really own your data. You really have control over, like how you want to use the platform and how you want to run your ops, and you have full control of your assets. And like you said, this is a very big piece, and this is how we really see the space moving forward. Also, we do not I think the space really pushes towards decentralizing and teams not having access to what should be under your control.
Pranav, this is the point in this interview session where I usually just ask, like, how has it been working with zkMe? Like, be as critical as you want. I also use these kind of sessions to just understand how we can improve, like if there's any wish on future features that we should focus on. Like, let us know, let the audience know. Happy to know how we can improve.
You know what, I know what you're building. You know, you straight up, your text was, and I don't remember it very clearly, but it was like, you know, like, I know what you guys are building. It reminds me of some product, and you named that product. You know what, this is, compliance is going to be a big part of what you guys do, and KYC is going to be a big part of what you guys do. And the one message, I was like, you know what, let's do this. You know, and I think the moment I was soon after we actually brought up the KYC thing. You know, like, we made that a priority to build it out. I think the whole thing was pretty smooth. You know, I think it was just we did not even do a lot of calls. I mean, as far as I remember, I think there was very few calls, and mostly just being, we've coordinated, we've built those features out. I think customer support has been really good. Again, as you know, both zkMe and StationX, we're really figuring things out on the go, right? Like, I think a lot of processes that we are building in terms of how we provide support to our customers, and when I say our customers, I mean both zkMe and StationX, right? How we provide support to our customers. This has been a journey since January that we've been figuring out, and we've been improving each time, right? With each SPV, we've just been trying to improve it. I think now the focus for us is to, you know, like, take the learnings that we've had and, you know, have better documentation, better everything, just like better documentation, simple ways of, like, you know what, okay, fine. If I have to do this, how do I do that? How do I set up a zkMe account? Where can I get my data? How do I manage my data? And just like basic stuff like that, right? So I think that just going to be better documented. And now we will be able to do that now because we have so much learning from the past 6 months of customer support that we figured out along the way, right? So yeah, I mean, I think it's been super fun working with you guys. I think every time a problem came up, it's just been the highest of priority for both teams to figure it out and address it immediately. And that's something that I think that is more important than anything else, you know, because that comes first for us. Customers come first for you. Customers come first, and that otherwise the integration and the tech itself was very seamless. And just working with you guys is super fun because you guys really not only like, I think it's not only just the platform that you guys. It's not just the platform that you sell. I think it's really just a lot of understanding in your space that you also offer help with to partners like us, and I think that goes a long way.
Thank you so much for this feedback. Yeah, I still remember those early messages because I really wanted to have like a syndicate solution within our customer base. Typically, especially in the early days, we try to have like a lighthouse customer in every single vertical. Like, we have one in airdrops, we have one in launchpads, on-ramp, and then keep that small customer base just to learn as much as possible, right? And I think StationX has been like, it's probably the most valuable customer we had so far, just because of the speed and number of different integrations that we have been able to spin up. Because all of our other customers are just customers, right? They have their own service. They act as a semi-centralized service provider. They have on-chain components, but StationX is an infrastructure provider, and like providing a service as a primitive to an infrastructure provider is just something else. A lot of learnings. We have loved working together with you, and I'm really looking forward to make the integration even more seamless. So things like creating an account for the customers programmatically. Like, you know that
Yes.
every single one of our customers has to create a wallet in order to own their own data and own their KYC data on chain. But obviously that account is disparate, like is separate from the StationX account. and we're working on a functionality to make that a unified way, so that if someone opens a wallet on StationX, that wallet can then also be used to hold identities on zkMe.
KYC data also, right? So maybe it could also be like just how we display data to the manager of their own investors via the data that is shown on your dashboards, right? So I think like there's just few things that we can do here that could just make the experience like 10x from where we are as of today, you know. So yeah, it's a really good point in terms of like just making the process of like having a separate zkMe account and having a separate StationX account, and then I think that that's a bridge that we can build very soon.
Yeah, it's going to be a priority for us in this quarter. In general, like whenever you build something that is fully on chain, it's not as easy as just spinning up an API and then you have everything done. But like we really believe in this use case, and we're really looking forward to see StationX grow. So for all of the listeners, like how can we learn more about StationX, who to follow, where to see more, how to learn more about StationX?
So we are at the StationX network on Twitter. We've not been very active, to be very honest, but it's a lot of plans that we have to like really ramp up our marketing efforts starting from now. So yeah, we're at the StationX network on Twitter. Likewise, we have a Telegram chat, which is also at the StationX network. Myself, I'm at the Yaradauti. We have a website that's stationx.network, which is also we're also launching a new website very, very soon. So it's going to really have a lot of clear information on what you can do on StationX, what can you do on StationX, and depending upon like we are adding a really cool explore section where you can explore the syndicates that you're working with. You can join them. You can receive alerts when when they have a deal that's live. We're going to make the whole stack. A lot of things coming out, right? But yeah, I think there's some of these next updates will be live very soon. So StationX network on Twitter is where we're going to be super active from now.